Good evening. This is Peter McFarland, and I'm calling the Community Preservation Committee meeting to order on Wednesday, October 14th at 5:30 p.m. And we are doing the meeting by GoToMeeting. And Patrick will give us the disclaimer.
Yep. So for all virtual meetings, new criteria in terms of when voting on or taking a motion, we will need to conduct roll call votes. Also, for when speaking, try to refrain from speaking over each other to avoid confusion. Access to the meeting for all meetings can be found on the agenda, which is posted on the town's website. Emails can be sent in advance to either cped@norwoodma.gov or you could more directly cpa@norwoodma.gov for this committee. That's about it. Back to you, Pete.
Okay. So the first order of business is not an agenda. The announcement about John Apria. He has moved out of town and has resigned from the Community Preservation Committee. Sorry to see him go, but it was a quick decision. He sold his house and couldn't find another place in Norwood, so he decided to take up residence in another town. Said sorry to see him go. He's a good person. I enjoyed working with John, and said for the interim, Joe Greeley, Patrick and I talked, and Joe Greeley is going to handle the treasurer's duties until we get through town meeting. And once we have a replacement for John, we'll decide what we'll do from there as far as the treasurer goes. So I thank Joe for stepping in and helping us out at this point. So that being said, as far as it, we can resume with the rest of the agenda unless anybody would like to say anything. Okay. Next, first order of business is the approval of the minutes from September 23rd. Has everybody had a chance to read? And Patrick?
I spoke to Mr. Hall earlier today. There were just two corrections to the minutes. I believe the two topics dealing with the Morse House and the Old Parish Cemetery. I needed to highlight those and make them bold. And then there was a correction on one of the paragraphs dealing with content that Mr. Hall said regarding the Morse House project. And so I made those corrections and I can resend them to the board, but they were just more minor corrections, but I'm going to make note of those.
Yeah, I have one minor correction too. Jack Roach's name is Roche, no A, and an E at the end. So just for, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as amended. Patty?
Second.
And second by Joe Sheehan.
Second.
Okay. Question, anything further to say? Okay. Oh, we've got one thing we didn't do roll call. But we'll approve the minutes and then go into, and also I'll second as roll call too. Approval of minutes and roll call. Joe Sheehan.
I'm here and I approve.
Okay. Matt Lane.
I'm here as well, and I also approve.
Patty Starr.
Here and approve.
Joe Greeley.
Present, and I'm going to abstain because I was late to that meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
On Hall.
Present and approve.
Tony Esco. Okay. Chair is present and approves. So we have a 6 in favor and 1 abstention. The minutes have been approved. Thank you. So next we're going on to the agenda is the fall special town meeting. As you already know that it's been scheduled for Thursday, November 12th. And we first and foremost, we need to recommend, take a vote on the 4 projects we've had public hearings for and recommend them to town meeting. Vote in favor, first vote to favor sending them to recommend them to town meeting for approval by town meeting. So, and if you want to, as far as just to go over the dollar amounts, Murphy Field basketball court resurfacing, the amount is $17,025. The town pool assessment, $80,000. Roe Parish Cemetery Master Plan, $28,000. And the Morris House feasibility study and master plan, $50,000. I don't know if we want to take them all individually, or do we want to, the discussion we want to take as one, we could take it as one motion to approve all 4, or if you want to do it individually, we can go ahead and discuss each one and go through it that way. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'm content to do all 4 together.
Okay,
I am
Joe?
also.
Likewise.
Do we have a motion and a second then? Is that, Patty, you want to motion that?
Sure, that's fine.
And
If
I'll
everybody-
second
I'll second that.
I'll
no
second that.
second? Okay. Any discussion on any of them as far as that goes?
Looks fine to me.
Looks good.
Really not- I can't see you, but I'm assuming you have nothing to say to add to this.
Surprisingly, I have nothing to say on this topic. Thank you.
Okay. I'm almost shocked. As far as all that goes, so seeing there's no more discussion on this, we'll do a call to approve the recommendation to town meeting for these 4 projects.
Excuse me. Point of information, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Are we also, as a second motion, are we going to split the money between accounts?
Well, I think we also have,
I think I have there's another agenda item. So
I think that's a separate item, Joe,
Okay, all right.
and we'll
Right.
discuss, I think that's actually the next item.
Okay, great.
Post
Thank you.
article and motions. So as far as that goes. All right, we'll take a vote. Start with Joe Sheehan,
I approve.
Matt Lane, Patty Starr,
Approve.
Joe Greeley,
Joe Greeley, aye.
John Hall,
Approve.
Tony Esco. Tony, your microphone's not, I see you, I see you go. I'll take that as a thumbs up then. Got it now. And the chair, votes yes too. So, these 4 articles are being recommended to town meeting and have been approved. So the next, discussion, would be about, are we going to allocate money for each project, which bucket we're taking it from? And, if it's all gonna come from one bucket, or if we're gonna take some from unreserved, as far as that goes. So I think Joe Greeley and you and Pat had some discussion about separating, how to, allocate the money, or?
Yeah, we did, and I think Pat has it in front of you.
Yep.
Yep. So I think we're just kind of going with the same process we've done before. Obviously, that's up to the rest of the committee, how they feel it's a better way to split it. But I kind of just did 50-50 based on the use account and then with the budget or reserve account. We have the money in place in order to do that. Obviously, if the committee feels different in terms of, what percentage for each. Obviously, that's up to all of you tonight. But in front of you, so here's just kind of the rough, the article, and then obviously the motion underneath. I have everything highlighted in yellow for you. I don't know if you can see that, but that's
So,
I guess what we're.
I'll read then, and the first item is OPAR Cemetery Master Plan. Allocate 28,000 by taking 14,000 from historic resources and 14,000 from unreserved. Are we calling it unreserved?
I actually got to change. So the accounts changed from last time due to our accounting system change. So it's actually, I'll get the correct wording, but I think it's budgeted reserve fund now for the unreserved and the
Budgeted reserve. Okay.
yeah, and then the historic resources I think is just CPA historic reservations preservation. So it's the same thing, but the wording kind of changed slightly because we went to Munis. So
Yeah. So we just want to match what we're going to.
yeah,
This is basically the match what's going to be on the warrant. So we don't
Yes.
want to, where it goes. And Morse House feasibility study and master plan, $50,000, 25,000 coming from historic reserves and 25,000 from. I can't read that one.
it'd be the budgeted reserve fund. So
Okay. And then the Murphy basketball court, just $17,025 coming from the open space and recreation. That's it. We're not splitting that.
yeah, if with the figure being under 20,000, I mean, obviously, if we want to follow the same process and divide it in half, that's up to the board. But it's whatever you guys want.
I think this is fine. That'll be for the committee. We'll just get through this and then we can discuss that if anybody wants to change it or not. The town pool assessment, $80,000, and 40,000 coming from open space and recreation land, recreational use of land.
Open
And then-
space, yeah.
And
And
unreserved.
40,000 from the balance reserve fund. So to make it for the $80,000, do I have a motion to? And then we can, motion in a second. And
Motion
we-
to accept,
So Joe, Sheehan, motion to?
motion to accept, as the money as stated here.
Okay, and Patty seconds?
Sure.
Okay. Any discussion as far as that goes? Anybody have anything? It seems clean to me. Matt Lane?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a question, just as a newer member. Is the way that these funds have been allocated, is that consistent with how we've done that in the past?
Yes. Because, we went through, in the spring, we did the articles to put the minimum 10% of each in each category. So, and then we have the bulk of the money is in the, well, we used to call it the unreserved, but,
A budgetary reserve category?
so, so what we do, we want to, well, since we're going to be, this is kind of like, in this fiscal year, this could be the second, one of the first of two that we, so we, we'd be putting probably money in there in spring. So we don't want to deplete the accounts either, so we just kind of take a little bit from both, and since that, like Patrick said, the resurface $20,000.
Right.
We don't really need to split that up. I don't feel, but that's not my vision. I think that's the wish of the board. But that's, Matt, to be the quick answer, yes, that's, it's consistent.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? John,
Just to
everything
add,
is for what?
I support what's been done here, but as further background from that, in previous years, the combined totals of the amount of monies for the projects have been a much larger percent of the funds received that year. And so we've sometimes had to do something a little more complicated than what the 50-50 that was done here across most of the projects. And as the chairman indicated, it's always a matter of fairness to the areas so that you don't inadvertently end up shoveling a lot more money into one area versus another, but you also don't drain all the money out of any areas, dedicated funds, just because they've got a lot of approved projects at the moment.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Hall. I appreciate that.
Thanks, John.
Mr. Chair, if I could ask just a question.
I don't see a hand, Joe.
I have two hands on the wheel, that's why.
Okay.
Just a question directed to Patrick, if we could. Pat, with these allocations, can you confirm how much money is left? I should have done this myself. I'm sorry I didn't do this. How much money is left in the open space and recreational use of land after this?
Let me just do some.
Just want to make sure we're not tapping it out.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure, we're not, but
We're taking 57,000 out, so.
Yeah, we have 111,390 in the count. So what'd you say, 57?
Yeah, so it's almost half. We'll still
Okay.
have 50,000.
Yeah, we still have a little under 55.
okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Not seeing anything else. No other hands? I guess it's time to vote as stated previously. We'll do a roll call. Joe Sheehan,
Aye.
Matt Lane,
Aye.
Patty Starr. I'm you, Patty.
Aye. Sorry about that.
Joe Greeley,
Joe Greeley, aye.
John Hall,
John Hall, aye.
Tony Esco. You're on mute.
Look like an eye to me.
Give me a thumbs up, Tony.
She
Aye.
said aye. I read her lip.
You're closer than I am, Patty. And the chair votes aye. So all in favor, unanimous, and approved as, so I think this has already been submitted to, for the warrant anyways, as it is. So, no changes, so we're all set, right, Pat?
Yeah, so the portion going on the warrant, let me just bring it up one moment. So obviously, the portion that is going on the warrant is more or less showing the breakdown of the projects. The motion, as we discussed before, will be the appropriation for the different accounts. So it looks like 2 birds, 1 stone. We should be good to go.
Okay, good. So the next item on the agenda is the account appropriation, which we just did too. So we're all set on that. CPA financial review. Pat or Joe?
Yeah. So Joe, I know I had sent this to you, and Mr. Hall and myself just had a quick conversation about it. So I just want to, if there's any questions, I want to clear that up for anybody in terms of reading this. But so this is the current state of funds for FY21. If you scroll down from, it's 9 pages, you scroll down to the budget report, we go more into each category, such as the use accounts and the project accounts. I just want to clarify that when you see the column original appropriation kind of on the left-hand side, that is the money that's being carried over from the previous fiscal years. And the transfer adjustments, that $78,000 figure, that is the money that we appropriated at the annual town meeting. And so your revised budget is that final number after, to the right of those two columns. So I'm on open space right now, and you'll need to see that, originally we had 32,750. We appropriated 78,640, and we have 111,390 in that account currently. One thing that I do want to clear up, and it's a minor issue, but I think it's just something that with the budget report, I want to make sure I get right with accounting, is those funds from the previous year's administrative budget. So what happens that we're familiar with those, that when they're not used, they go back into the CPA version of the general fund. And so that's a separate account that I want to make sure I get that information to you guys as well. Unfortunately, it doesn't show up when we do it when I conduct a normal year-to-date budget report using Munis. So I want to make sure I can get that figure to you guys. I think we had around 31,000 that was left remaining from FY20. So that money theoretically is usable within like the unreserved. So that 511,000 figure is technically, about 30,000 more if you factor in the remaining admin budget, but it's not showing on this report. So I just wanted to clarify that. But that's pretty much it. I mean, obviously, if we're well aware that historic housing is begging for a project. We got a good chunk of funds there. And I mean, I don't know if this is technically on the agenda, but I mean, I could shed some light into stuff that Paul and I are working on adjacent to this, or just kind of at the same time in terms of housing. It's not totally related to CPA at the moment. And probably going off track right now, but it's a project down the line.
Yes, you are.
Yes. But yeah, but that's about it. I don't know if anyone has any specific questions with the year-to-date budget, though.
I do have one quick question. Since the state hasn't approved their budget, we haven't got our matching fund yet, have we?
Correct. We do not have that fund yet. We usually get that nice email from our buddy Stuart Sagnor, and we have not got that yet. So I heard somewhere it was around 17%, but I'm not sure what the final number will be up to. I think if we recall, I think not this fiscal year, but next fiscal year takes into account the full change to the legislation with the
Increased fees.
the increased fees. Yeah. So this year it's a slight raise, but obviously after a full calendar year, and I don't know how much it's going to be impacted by the coronavirus either, but in general, it should be a lot more next year, theoretically. So we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's, any questions on the financials?
Just if I could, Mr. Chair, Pat has attempted anyway to help me come up to speed with the financials, and we will try to put together a presentation, an online presentation for town meeting members, just to try to condense this into a one-pager as far as beginning balances, allocations, and ending balances. So we'll try to make this as user-friendly as possible.
Very good. Thank you. And just before we leave, just as far as, do you know if we're going to, if they talked about how, my understanding is we're going to do town meeting the same way we did it in the spring. And as far as, are we going to do a preview prior to, like when school had their night?
I think we're going to try to attempt to do something. So just, like planning, we're trying to have a meeting tomorrow with town meeting members to discuss specifically the Route 1 article. But I know last year, I think Tony had tried something on a Saturday in order to kind of like answer any additional questions with articles. This year, we talked about trying to do maybe videos or some sort of measure where we can kind of go over any articles beforehand and have that information available for town meeting members to access and to view going into the meeting. I do know that the zoning articles, we're probably going to need a projector actually at town meeting, because you can't really go through those as quickly as you'd like. So those will require some sort of presentation. For CPA, I mean, we could, like Joe mentioned, we could probably work on at least like a one slide just in case if we need to display any figures, such as, people always want to know what's in the accounts, and if we want to just give a quick breakdown of the projects on like a one slide, we could have that available for town meeting. But if we want to, and this is something I got to get more information on, trying to record maybe a video going over each project. And that's something I can touch base with you later, Pete, and probably with Joe as well, as the treasurer, just to kind of make sure we're showing the right information and kind of getting to the gist of what each project is about. I think just for the sake of brevity and wanting to make sure we're as clear as possible, I think we'd like to try to get it done within kind of a short time frame. I'm not sure, obviously I wasn't at the annual, so I know that you do kind of have a limited amount of space and we're all going to be inside, so it remains to be seen how detailed each presentation will be or not. So but
Okay.
yeah,
When you know, let us know.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. CPA business and updates. Let's see. Status of approved projects. Any, I know down at Lower Bulch, they've done a lot of work with the outdoor outdoor classroom. They've got the benches set up. They got trees planted, mulch down. I don't know how much more that has to be done there as far as the classroom goes, but they have touched they're doing fencing around what would be the street hockey court, which used to be the rollerblade court. So they're doing the fencing out there, but they haven't touched that surface yet, and they haven't done nothing on the ramp yet, because I think that's being held up for bidding and all that. So then as far as the pavilion, Tony, it's a nice pad out there, and but the structure hasn't, as far as I know, unless something's happened the last couple of days, the structure hasn't arrived yet. But I guess it's been ordered, and it'll be DPW will direct it, or something to that extent. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I have an estimate for the pavilion itself, and I know Ramonda from the Conservation Commission, as well as our new conservation agent Holly Jones, have been working on the project. Construction of it, I believe, we're actually going to get done by the facilities department, and I'm kind of waiting to pull the trigger. I do have, like I said, I have an estimate, but I don't have a final invoice yet. So we're hoping to kind of get that wrapped up, hopefully before the winter. But it's I need to check back with them where that is, because right now I just have the estimate for it, and I can't process it yet. So I'm not sure where they are with the ordering. But that's all I have on that.
So I'm taking it there's no additional funds needed, is there?
No, actually they got it done. I think it's under budget by a good amount. So it was definitely a positive outcome. It'd be great to get this constructed, but it came in under budget. So looking good. And I think you mentioned too, like the Lower Bulch. I know Travis wants to do some components with that probably in the spring. And so that's kind of where that project stands. And with the Carillon project, I know Mr. Cooper touched on this when he gave his update to the board. I believe I always get the guy's first name wrong, but Sunderland, anyone's heard that name, he's kind of the Bell expert down in Maryland. I believe he is coming up to kind of do a review in November at some point. From there, they'll be able to get kind of a better idea of the different stages of the project. I think they have, obviously we know there's the painting element of the structure is kind of a separate thing, where the bell work is kind of like the later part. But in November, hopefully would get a better idea with the Bell expert's opinion if the project needs more funding. I know that was kind of one of the something we discussed about doing like an addendum application. I believe you mentioned that last time. So that's something that I kind of have geared up and will work with Bernie on, if that's possible. If not, it may have to be something obviously for next year's annual, if there is a second phase to that project.
Sure.
That's it in terms of our current projects.
If I could, Mr. Chair, just throw in a note about the chapel project.
Oh, yeah.
I did send an email to the PBCC. Frankly, I'm not quite sure what their status is as a meeting board. But I did send an email. I have not received a response yet. Just requesting a status on the chapel. And in fact, if they consider the project closed, then if they could institute whatever steps they need to do to close the project, and at which time we can move the funds back. So as soon as I get a response, I'll share that with the board and Pat.
Okay. Thank you, Joe.
I believe they've got around 87,000 remaining on that project. So at least that's what I'm reading on the reports. That is a good chunk of change.
And Bond Street Playground, we don't need to discuss. That project's finished. As far, and the sign's up too.
Looks good.
Yeah, nice project. Nice start for the CPA. As far as that, okay, the application cycle. Today is last Friday was the end of the pre-application phase. Do we have any takers, Patrick?
So we do have 4 definite pre-applications. One has to do with the removal of the fire bell within the Carillon. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the story, but the old fire station that used to be in town, kind of in the same location of Town Hall. Tony probably knows exactly. Tony, where was the old fire station exactly? Was it where Town Hall was, or was it?
Well, the OCC. The OCC was.
Well, not the OCC. It was before the OCC. Yeah. So this is previous to the OCC. There was another fire station. So when they built the current town hall, they moved the old fire bell up into the Carillon. So there's 51 bells, but one of them doesn't play at all. And so this project was submitted by John Grove, which, if you remember, he represented the old parish cemetery volunteers.
Yep.
And so the project's going to look into what the cost would be to remove that bell. I believe Mr. Grove is working with a few members or a few firefighters, and it's kind of like an initiative from them. So it remains to be seen. Obviously, once we get Mr. Sunderland in from Maryland, who can take a look at the Carillon, he can provide probably a better estimate of how much that would cost. And so that's the pre-application for that project. I also have 3 pre-applications from Trails committees, from the Trails Committee. I just want to go over them quickly. Not to too much detail, but just to get the names right. So one has to do with a ADA path around Hawes Brook, around the 2 ponds around the Hawes Brook. And I think Joe could probably add a little more detail there. That project is
men's and women's swimming pools.
Oh, is that what they are?
Originally.
Yeah, so that project, that's a pre-application, but I think that might be something that we could be able to handle in-house. So that is kind of, that's evolving. Another one is looking into feasibility, probably an assessment for trails at University Ave. If everyone's familiar with a Walker property is in that area, there's about 80 plus acres of town land that, it's a great area to kind of possibly put in some trails. So that's going to be one of the pre-application projects. And another pre-application was for a viewing platform on the Mount Norwood, as Joe would call it. It's the hill over on Winter Street.
Oh, Mount Trashmore, you mean?
Mount Trashmore. But I think it looks like a really cool project. So I look forward to trying to work with Joe on that and learn a little bit more, because it's definitely some good views over there. So those are the 4 current ones. And then I think, as I mentioned, I do have something kind of geared up that I need to work with Bernie on in terms of if we need additional funding for the Carillon project. Obviously, those 4 projects, I would like to have seen something for housing, and I kind of was starting to go into this a little bit earlier, but that might be not really relevant to the agenda. But it is an ongoing thing that both Paul and I want to work on, and so there will probably be an element maybe next year where we come to the CPA for funding related to a regional housing services organization. But that project is still kind of something that we're working on with MAPC and a few of our abutting communities. So I just wanted you to be aware of that we are looking into housing and utilizing that. It's just unfortunately, like most things, the project kind of got delayed due to coronavirus, and we're hoping to get back to it, working with MAPC over the winter, and work on that feasibility study, whether or not we can do an RHSO, and what the different what we need to do to make that feasible. But yeah, that's it so far.
And okay. And you've already announced that we have John as our recording secretary, right? So I guess that's not an update anymore.
Yeah.
Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, John.
I had a question and I wasn't quick enough on my mic switch regarding the Trails Committee project up around Avenue. I remember when the Trails Committee was offering some ideas a couple of years ago, there was some interest from the Historical Commission about taking advantage of the proximity of that location to the old pumping station. And I'm wondering if this new proposal is anywhere near that area.
I will answer that. Hold on.
It's in the same proximity. The pumping station fronts on Route 1. The backside of this, obviously, it's University Ave. And
Yeah, if I,
that is a good Joe Greeley question, but he's
If
not,
I-
he's got both hands on the wheel here, so I don't know if he can see what's going on here.
Joe is now parked at the Ellis Field.
Oh,
So
Run across the highway, show us.
that's right. So John, in Pat's overhead there, the pumping station is top left around. So that, Ellis Field, you could probably see me waving to you from Ellis Field. If you cross, just at midfield right there is the pumping station, the electric substation. Right, yeah, right there. But that area, the area that we're talking about, that's all the area around those two buildings is actually privately owned. So the area that we're talking about, Pat, if you could scroll down, it's basically on the other side of the Boston Skating Club. Right. So right there where it says Norwood Conservation LA on the left-hand side, right around 9 o'clock. Yep. So that piece of the property is conservation land.
And then there's a stream that separates the conservation land. The remainder of that land is technically owned by the light department. And that goes all the way over to Granger. So Granger is in the top right 2 o'clock corner. So that building. So all that green space, also known as the Norwood Town Forest. Peter, I'm going to coin that one as well. But that's all town owned. But the area that we're specifically looking at is only the conservation land on the left-hand side of this overhead. So I have approached I have discussed this with Holly Jones. She and Pat and I are actually scheduled to walk the property on Friday. And she was going to add a discussion of this project as well as the Haas Pool area, the pond area, to the next Conservation Committee meeting.
Okay.
So
So
it,
basically the area you're talking about is south of the hot dog stand, right?
exactly, right.
And that's left side there. Okay.
How big an area are you talking, Joe?
It's probably, I would venture a guess, probably 12 to 15 acres.
Okay, thank you.
But it goes all the way from, yeah, right there. I was gonna ask Pat. It goes all the way
With
from,
the X-ray here?
yep, thank you.
Yeah.
It goes all the way from the hot dog stand, if we can use that spot, all the way down to the
Okay.
bottom left corner where the L is.
Mm-hmm.
With the
So
with the shaded area, it's all the shaded area.
It's over, yeah, exactly. So to the left of that is private property, but to the right of that is all town owned by the light department. So at this point, we're only looking at the green conservation area for now.
Thank you.
Sure. We have had, I think a couple of the committee members, the CPC committee members have joined us. We have had either one or two community walks out there. So it is an interesting piece of property. It probably needs a fair amount of funding. Frankly, I don't know what that means. But it has to be approved first by the Conservation Commission and then obviously by town meeting.
Okay. Any questions from anybody else?
I just wanted to point out that if anyone's familiar, the Signal Hill Reservation area is also kind of nearby. I know this is probably it's be more of a trail committee discussion, but that's another interesting property. Obviously, that's in Canton, but that is an area maintained by the trustees of the reservation. So definitely a lot going on in this area.
Yeah, and we have the Ponset River going through there too, right? It's just about where your cursor is.
Yes, yeah, this big stretch of river, that's the Neponset. And then you can kind of see right here where the two rivers converge very slightly. I believe that's, Joe, is that, I believe that's Purgatory.
Purgatory Brook, right? That's from,
I'll have to check with Holly. I think that might either be Purgatory or Planting Field.
Planting Field stops basically around the light substation.
Okay.
It's funny you mentioned the trustees, the Signal Hill. It's a beautiful lot. I actually am in early discussions with them to try to collaborate on a grant for next year for a connecting bridge or somehow to get together.
I was going to say, I could talk about that all day. I think it'd be a great idea. So,
More to follow. It is a good one.
Yep.
yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. And I think we're at the end of our agenda. Unless anybody else has anything. John Hall, question?
My question has to do with renewal of positions. I believe we are now at 2 open positions. One is John Apreyes and the other is the Conservation Commission committee person. Where do we stand on the ladder?
So, Joe probably knows the name. It's unofficial right now, but I know the Concom has appointed one of their new members to represent the Concom at the CPC. I haven't been officially notified. I haven't gotten any memo exactly yet, but I do know that they've appointed someone, and unfortunately, the name is blanking on me. I don't know if Joe remembers or not.
Yeah, Catherine Walsh.
Okay,
Yeah,
I think we just discussed that
At
today.
least one here, and you can't remember anything.
Can't remember.
so I was, if I could, I was at the last online Conservation Commission meeting, and Catherine was very interested in some of our process, and she asked a number of great questions, and she did volunteer, and they formally asked her to join. So I did provide her with some information, and I think she'll definitely be on board by town meeting.
And as far as John Apria goes, Patrick sent notification to the selectmen, so they need to appoint somebody anyways. And since his term is up, it's gonna be a new person anyway, so. So we'll just have to wait and see how fast that gets filled. Matt Lane, did you want to add anything?
Could I just,
Oh.
the thought I
No, go ahead, John.
because my other question was, the status of all four of the at-large members. You said John Aprea's term was going to be up, and I believe terms are up in the spring. Isn't that right?
Actually, I believe John Apria just was renewed for
Oh, yes,
his
John Apria
additional
was
term.
reinstated last year. Right?
Yeah.
John was reinstated last year, so it would just be,
The first will be for
John, you and I are on the same cycle. And then, well,
who's due
And that-
to
who's the fourth?
elapse?
Peter, that's me.
Oh, Joe, yeah, I'm sorry. Since I can't see, I forget all about you here.
Is it only Joe? Pat?
Joe,
One
so
moment.
your position would be up for renewal, right?
Well,
Have
that's,
Yes, that's
you
correct.
submitted a letter yet?
I'm sorry?
Have you submitted a letter yet requesting to come back, or are you gonna surprise us too?
Um,
why I'm at.
if you'll have me, town hall has not contacted me. So frankly, I'm not sure what the dates are.
I'll have to find that out. I believe it's 2022.
Yeah.
For you, but I'll double check on that.
2020, who's the you? Who's in
I'd love
20
I'd love to stay if you can have me.
All right, I'll find out. I believe Joe is.
That's John, you and I are up
2022.
next year, so we're 2021. Oh,
we're at 2021?
Yeah.
we had a 1 year, now we're up of every 3 years now. So,
That's fine. At what point do you and I have to do something?
I think it's next fall. I mean, actually, the committee kicked off at the same time. Pat, it's basically your anniversary, because it's kind of like we waited at everything until, well, I guess, I don't know. We were appointed before Pat was, hired, but it was kind of like we didn't start until Patrick was on board. So
Probably
it was like September, October when we really started doing anything on the CPC.
All renewal, is that's
We should get well, we'll leave it in Pat's hands to have him notify us.
I'm going to follow up tomorrow with Christina, and I'm going to get the information to at large, just to confirm that, because I'm on the website right now, and it's not listed under the elected officials. So I'll find that information out.
curious slot too. Did you bet?
Yeah, I think John. I'm pretty sure John Apria. Yeah, he just got reappointed, so I'm not sure if that was a 1 year or a 3 year, but I'll get that information.
He was the only, as far as I recall, Bob Thornton was a 3-year appointment, and he took Bob Thornton's place. So
Yeah.
that was his last fall was his end of his first term at 3 years, and then John got reappointed for 3 years. So he would be 2021, 22. He'd be 22 when he's up again, and then.
His refusal you.
We have a puzzle, John. We'll figure it out. It's Joe Sheehan?
Mr. Chairman, I've got another meeting to go through, so I've got to leave now. So thank you. Good night.
Good night, Joe.
Good night.
All right.
See you soon.
See you. Yeah. Zoom soon.
I'll see you Zoom soon. Yeah.
Besides that, I mean, we probably could have,
That'll address my question there. The other part of this is we're about to get into the season where people normally start running for an elected post. And it's my guess that the COVID situation is going to make that a lot more time consuming and difficult than it usually has been. And I'm just wondering if the town clerk's office or anybody has thought about what they may want to do to handhold people through that process or provide some kind of flexibility or revised timetables that make it more likely that people who want to run for something are able to do so. This isn't really for us because we don't have elected officials, but it got me thinking about it, and I'll just plant that as a thought with you, Pat, and do with it whatever you want.
Yeah, I'll have a conversation with the clerk's office. I right now they are buried in anything to do with the election, so I'll make sure to touch base with them and maybe it's something that we can address after November.
post November 3rd.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. Anything else? Well, I got it, Tony, and I got it, Pat. Tony, what would you like to say?
No, thank you. On the agenda under our November meeting, do we have a regular business meeting in November? Or just, town meeting and maybe an info session or?
Well, we do have a tentative, we have a meeting on the schedule. It wasn't going to be November 11th because of the holiday. It was going to be November 18th,
Right.
third Wednesday for November. That is on the schedule. As far as, Pat, when's the last time, how far do we have to give notice if we're going to change or cancel the meeting? What do we have?
We can do that whenever. It's not a public hearing or anything like that. It's just a regular scheduled meeting. So if we wanted to say cancel the 18th and move it to the 25th, or just cancel into December, we can do that at any time.
Okay.
It's so obviously I brought that up as an agenda item just because town meeting is the 12th. I don't know if we're going to get done all on the 12th, so I don't know if we want to have a meeting. Probably not. Yeah, I don't know if we want to have a meeting the same week as town meeting. I don't believe we can do that anyway. So the 18th is probably not a good date right now.
What I was kind of thinking.
The only thing is we're closing the applications on the 13th, November 13th, I think.
Yes.
So, well, I mean, as far as that goes, well, all we could use is you could distribute the applications electronically and we can deal with them in December, as long as they get out. It'd be good if they got out as soon as, feasible, humanly possible, especially if you're in the middle of town meeting. But if you find that, you can let us know. But if we're now,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean,
if
if
it's
that's,
20th or something like that, it would be nice if it went out before Thanksgiving, so everybody had at least a couple weeks to look at it. And we can decide if we're going to do, we can cancel November meeting and then just go to December but also have the projects in hand before that. We can definitely give them a good review beforehand. John Hall, I see a hand going down.
Yes, when I was doing my multi-point question, I ended up cutting off the lane. And I'm sure you gave Matt a chance to bring up whatever he was about to bring up. Microphone, Matt.
Matt, you were on mic and then you hit mute.
Thank you, John. No, actually, Mr. Chairman, you started to talk about it when I raised my hand about the appointment of Mr. Prea's position. So you started talking about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I just wanted to make note that we were notified. So the
Oh, you were?
board-
Okay, good.
The
good.
board is aware.
Yeah, all right, good, thank you. Good to know. Any other questions or comments or other than that?
I just
Yeah.
wanted to thank Joe Greeley for stepping in and helping us out with John's position.
That's
Thanks,
very nice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I think we should send a note thanking John for his noble and detailed service.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All righty. Thank you, John. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn, I guess?
So move.
John,
Second.
second by Patty Starr. And okay, roll call. Matt Lane,
Aye.
Patty Starr,
Aye.
Joe Greeley. Joe Greeley. Did I hear an aye from him? John Hall,
Aye.
Tony Esco,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So we are adjourned and we'll